Okay, so welcome everyone to the AWS Carpenter Provider Issue Triage meeting for Monday, July 21st. We can go ahead and get started. Okay. Carpenter consolidates without cause, causing service disruption. Okay. So it looks like they do not expect Carpenter to disrupt their nodes. Saying that the result was replacing the old nodes with the new nodes of the same instance family. So there was no cost saving, but it looks like the reason was drifted. So, I mean, it looks like they could have just misunderstood the behavior here because, I mean, if it's drift, then we do we do expect like similar instance type. Um, I think this is more of like like a misunderstanding here. Probably we could just help them understand what's happening. I don't think they've given us the Carpenter version that they are on either.
It says 1.1.1 there.
Oh,
Well, it's just
okay.
a chart.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Okay, yeah, looks like something that we can probably just like explain to them. Uh, I can actually assign this to myself.
Yeah, I feel like we get these similar types of issues pretty frequently. It wouldn't be a
Hmm.
bad idea to maybe, as part of the issue template, have a guide that we link out to identifying the cause of disruption that we
Hmm.
encourage people to read through and understand before opening an issue. Just
Yeah.
because this is relatively common and it's understandable. There are a lot of potential causes.
Hmm.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, something worth considering. Um, I'm not at my computer at the moment, so I can't write it in the notes. But if anyone is able to write that up as a follow up for us to potentially look at doing.
Yeah. I can take that. Okay. I guess we can move over to the next one then. Carpenter selects wrong army when using multiple name in army selector terms. What's happening here? They've given multiple army selector terms and Carpenter correctly fixed the Arch 64 army for ARM64 instance types. However, AMD 64 instance types, it'll pick NVIDIA. Okay. Expected behavior,
Well,
Carpenter.
are they using alias or are they
Um,
using names?
they're using the names.
Yeah, I mean, there is no concept of a NVIDIA AMI natively. That's something that's handled. Karpenter handles that with alias because we have more information about the requirements for a given AMI.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do EC2 describe images, there's nothing that says this is an NVIDIA AMI or this is a Neuron AMI. All you know
Mm.
is x86 versus ARM.
Ah, I see.
So yeah, if you want to assign this to me, I can clear that up.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that, Jason.
Um, yeah, there's actually a open feature request which could help with this, where basically as part of your AMI selector terms, you get to specify a set of requirements. So you could
Mm.
say that this AMI only works with NVIDIA instances and so on. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's not something that's natively supported.
gotcha. Makes sense. Also, I guess it makes sense if I remove the needs triage label here, right? So that we can keep track of issues that we've looked at. But what do you think? What label should I assign to this one
Uh,
then?
just go ahead and assign it to me because I'm
Okay.
not at my computer. I'm driving in right now.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So like I can't see the actual issue just based on the description. It sounds like this is pretty well known.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, let's not change the label just in case I misunderstood something. I can go ahead
Gotcha.
and trash it.
Okay. Gotcha. Sure. Okay. Moving over. The nodes are receiving drift events outside of their scheduled time. Okay, this is, I think, a very classic one where, I mean, they could have misunderstood. I haven't like even looked at this thoroughly enough to know if the disruption budget is correct. But I think we've seen a bunch of issues like these, right? Should run from 12.
I looked at a bunch of similar issues last week. I think
Mm,
there are two problems. One is definitely probably something that we can improve in our documentation as well, but there's definitely a very common misunderstanding around how these things work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also don't think the current behavior is very intuitive. So I was
Mm,
also talking to Jonathan. I think we might have to make a few changes to make this a little more intuitive in the sense, or at least in around how we think of these disruption budgets and how we apply different reasons to those budgets. So um, yeah, I think it's something that's on my mind. I'm planning to maybe put up like a short RFC to get some
mm.
feedback on the proposed behavior, but probably not something that I'm going to be able to do immediately.
Okay, got it. Okay, sort of.
Yes.
Because yeah, it does look like I mean they're saying that like this is what they expect their when they expect drift can occur, but it is occurring outside that window, which looks like they have misunderstood it. But I get your point. I mean I can respond to this one actually. Okay, moving over. Failed consistency check expected 205 of resource pods but found 110 because we use 250 for ignore pods mismatch or limit pod strikes. Okay. Okay, I am not sure where this is coming from. Pod to 110 for smaller nodes, but Karpenter uses a different logic and gets 250. Where do we get 250 from? Okay, max pods calculator. I think we'll need more information than that, like what army. Okay, it looks like this is AL2 implicitly.
Could be.
Do we have their node class?
No, we don't have anything.
Okay, it'd be good to know if they're overriding max pods and like custom user data.
Yeah, I think that could be possible.
Could it also be related to the discrepancy that we saw in some cases wherein this calculation differed from what the army computed versus what Carpenter computed?
So you're talking the reserve DNI's case.
Yeah.
I think we need to know the Carpenter settings to know for sure. Probably
Yeah,
not though, because that's more IPs off, I think, than what you typically get from a single ENI.
Yeah. I mean, the
yeah,
discrepancy here
So it depends
definitely
on
is
the instance.
huge. So most likely it's not that case, but yeah, I think looks like we need more information from them.
yeah. Yeah, I'll change this to needs information. Um, is this something, Jason, that you can take a look at?
Yeah, I should be able to this week.
Okay, I'll just go ahead and assign it to you then.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. support for vCluster, that is ability to configure vCluster pods as daemon sets. The vCluster as seen as normal pods on host cluster, and hence Karpenter is not consolidating that node. We need the ability to configure to consider certain pods to instruct Karpenter to treat them as daemon set. I am not sure what exactly is a vCluster. Does
Oh,
anyone know?
We had talked about this, and I can't remember if it was a previous issue triage meeting or working group. Basically, I mean, vCluster is, my understanding, you're basically running like virtualized Kubernetes clusters within a Kubernetes cluster. Very
Mhm.
surface level understanding. Someone can correct me if I'm way off. But they have a daemon set like concept that doesn't actually use the underlying daemon set controller. So they want a
Mm.
way to make Karpenter model their daemon set pods as though they were like native Kubernetes daemon set pods.
Ah, I see. Okay. How exactly do we want to deal with this though? Like, I mean, do we just leave it open or?
I think it's a feature request. It's not a bug.
Yeah, it's not.
But
So,
I don't know. In my mind, if someone wants to write an RFC and basically lay out how Karpenter would model like these non-native daemon set like pods, because I'm sure this doesn't just apply to vCluster.
mhm.
In my mind, this is a reasonable like addition.
Yeah,
It,
definitely.
I think the one thing we had talked about previously was we would want to know more about like what the use case actually looks like. Like, do these really map one-to-one with daemon sets, or are there some additional discrepancies in the behavior that we would need to model? So
Mhm.
that's where like an RFC would be good.
Yeah, makes sense. I can respond to this ticket then. Um, okay. Karpenter, Army selector terms, scheduling requirements.
Oh,
Car-
that's the one I was just talking about.
I see. And we specify using feature gap for users. Okay. So what did we say we want to do about this one though?
I think feature request, we would want an
Mhm.
RFC.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. In my mind, I don't see a reason why we wouldn't want to accept it necessarily. It is a valid use case. It basically allows you to, rather than specifying like a separate node class for your custom NVIDIA AMIs and your custom Neuron AMIs and so on, you can collapse everything into a single node class.
Mm.
So I do think there's value there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the APIs may be a little bit awkward because like I remember in the way they defined it in the issue, you're like adding the requirements in the selector terms, which doesn't really make sense in my opinion. Though I don't have a better way off but yeah, I don't know. I think it's something reasonable. It's something I kind of threw out as maybe we should include this in like the V1 AMI selector redesign, but I don't think we had a strong enough use case at the time.
Got it. Is this something that you would like to respond to, Jason? Just like,
Sure.
yeah, more like, I mean, requesting an RFC if this is something they want implemented. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can follow up with it. Don't assign it to me because that would make it look like I'm implementing the feature, but
Okay, got it.
yeah, I'll follow up.
Okay, yeah. I'll just take a note of that so that. Okay. Add AWS client logs for better troubleshooting. 403. We can enable AWS logs like this. Okay. So they're saying that they want to add AWS client logs for better troubleshooting.
We can probably have a better story there, in terms of how we log failed requests or just in general AWS client requests.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm.
I don't know if there's any low-hanging fruit there of just like things that would be nice to do quickly. It kind of sounds like this is a bit of a bigger thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think for us to debug, we still have the request ID that we can then go back and debug for. But in I think for customers, it's easier if they could like just see these upfront, right? I think that is what the ask is mostly here, right?
Yeah, I mean the AWS client only gives so much information back. Like there's a lot of stuff that won't get parsed through that, like especially if but it sends a big response body, and then we like mostly what we do is we parse it for the error and then we print the error. I think that they could what they seem to be asking for is we could log the request, like the full JSON of the request that we sent, and then the full response of the JSON that we get before we do any parsing on it. Especially for ones that have errors. That'll also have like the number of retries. We can also get that, I think, from the client. There's definitely room for a better story here. The question is, how do we want to configure it? And they have a suggestion here for how it could be configured, but it might be worth a larger discussion. I don't think it's RFC worthy, but I don't know. Saurav, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I'm just trying to think. In general, we've talked a few times about how our logging story needs to improve. I think it also ties back to that, because if we decide to offer more options, then like we need to tie it back to what level of logging do we need to expose in Karpenter, or are we thinking this is just gonna something that's going to be specific to the AWS client?
I mean, this in particular is going to be pretty specific to the AWS client because it's like logging how the client interacts with AWS. You know what I'm saying? I don't think upstream Karpenter is going to have the same kind of issue, but it is worth. I don't think we need to like block
I mean,
on.
you could make it a larger story of all API requests, AWS client, like Kubernetes client as well. But yeah, I don't
True.
think you necessarily need to block on that.
Okay, if
I
we
mean,
don't,
especially for the configuration. Sorry, Shikisha.
No,
Especially for
no.
the configuration, I do think it's worth like knowing how the turning on of the logging of like the client, extra client logging. Because I'm imagining most customers aren't going to want us to log fucking everything. Pardon my French. So how we configure that, I think we'll have to consider how we configure like Kubernetes client logging and stuff like that. But the actual work doesn't need to be. Yeah, I agree, Sarah.
I think we should take this in as a feature request. Probably a good thing for like a new contributor term, so you can add that label if you want.
Do you know what that label is, sort of?
Good first issue or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Okay. I guess we can move over. A lot of stuff around logging. Log the duration field as number. Okay. Consider the following log event on provisionable pods. this duration is okay. Duration here has the units in the value. This makes the field text not a number, makes it hard to perform any analytics. If using CNCF standard tooling and using already used elsewhere as an unit field, the following error occurs. Okay, what do we think about this one? So then are we saying that we'll introduce duration and then another field called unit that would tell us what unit it is?
Isn't there something that can be comparatively easily parsed from the string?
I think so. I mean, from what they are saying there, it looks like if using CNCF standard tooling and using Elasticsearch to store log events, and if the field is already used elsewhere as a numeric field, the following error occurs. Rejected by Elasticsearch.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but that seems to be the root cause here, which seems like they're using the same schema for a different log type, which logs these as numbers instead of strings. So not totally seeing where the problem is with Karpenter.
Yeah.
They just ask more information, maybe.
Okay. Okay. I can probably assign this to myself. Improve the compatibility matrix table display. Karpenter has its own supported min Kubernetes version and max defined in each version releases. However, it's not detailed documented at compatibility matrix. It would be nice to either detailed documentation, all version would display it in reverse way. Current design makes okay. Have all versions info detailed document. Okay. I mean, I don't know, like expecting to have all version info detailed documented. Okay. Does anyone else also feel that this is like confusing?
I mean, I don't think it's confusing per se. I think they have metrics of when particular version was or started being supported from, but it doesn't tell when.
Sir, your voice is breaking for us, so I don't think I catched what you said. Okay, I guess yeah, we can't hear Saurav, but to me it looks like, I mean, I'm not in the favor of like something like this. But
It, I dropped a few messages in the chat since my network is a little spotty. I think we can discuss about the exact way to present this, but I think the ask is making sense.
Mhm. Okay. I'm just gonna change it to triage accepted then. But like, we'll still need to discuss more on this one, right? Okay, move over. Okay. Spot on demand fallback logs, configuration and retries question. We are using Karpenter with spot to on demand fallback strategy. While the setup works generally well, it brings up a new challenges. We're using two separate node pools, one for spot and other for on demand instead of a single node pool. Sure, we use that. However, Karpenter doesn't currently expose a Prometheus label for instance tenancy, which would be extremely helpful for monitoring purposes. When on-demand nodes are created, we want to gracefully shoot back to spot once capacity becomes available. This is harder to control with a single node pool. Sure. During normal operation. So it looks like they want to understand like what happens, like why there are times when spot capacity cannot be launched in certain cases. So like a way to inspect the fleet API calls. But I think this comes from create fleet though, right? So retry behavior and spot capacity can or to wait a bit for spot capacity before falling back to on demand. Okay. So they're saying that, okay, if certain, like if some instance types become unavailable, then we cache them. They're saying that if this cache duration can be made configurable, which I don't know if we wanna surface that configuration. Or we wanna provide a way to do it. What do you guys think?
I don't think we should add it to the node pool or the node class for sure. But like if they really want like an environment variable, that'll let them set this. I don't know, I don't see a huge problem with it. The customers could get themselves into trouble configuring it, and in general, like I yeah, I don't know. In general, they could get into trouble setting it to like weird values, but it should be mostly fine for them to configure that.
But yeah, that's the thing, right? Like if they configure it and then if they run into some issue, then it's probably something that we'll get a GitHub issue about. But do we want to expose them to that level of configurations? Because I think we've seen, I don't know, maybe a bunch of issues about like, using spot on demand and like the fallback behavior. So, not completely sure, but I do understand your point as well, Derek. Um, okay.
I think like I totally see the problems that they're facing, but it seems like there could be ways to mitigate that. So they might not even need that option. So I think we should take a look at this offline. Maybe there are different problems here. So the first one is about that metric label. I
Yeah.
recently found out that that got broken sometime when we might some of the node claim stuff to the provider. So I mean, we could find a uh, and then I even for like their second point, right? They should be able to have a more aggressive consolidation budget, right? So
Mhm.
I don't know if that's what they would prefer, but if their concern is that it's too slow to consolidate from one to spot, there are ways to speed that up. So I think we should just dive into some of those problems and see if the existing options make sense to them.
Yeah, okay. Jason, is this something that you'd be able to take a look as secondary this week? Can not.
Yeah, I should be able to. I should be able to at least take an initial look.
Okay. I can go ahead and assign this to you and then feel free to unassign if you think.
Sure, sounds good.
Yeah.
I do need to drop, by the way, but yeah, feel free to reach out to me if there's anything you want me to take a look at.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. Okay. Consider prefix delegation in max paths calculation. ECAS offers prefix delegation mechanism to increase the number of available IP addresses on EC2 instances. However, it seems like Karpenter currently does not take this into account when calculating max pod. Workloads with high pod makes for CPU memory. Karpenter always sets max pods. There is no way to work around this via user data. Okay.
We probably want to support this, I think.
It does make sense. This ask makes sense. Okay. I mean, maybe this is something that we can, take a look at. I'm gonna just. Okay. Move over. AWS pod identity. I think this sort of vision and best method to install Karpenter. Okay, it looks like this is already being kind of taken care of. It's like brand has already responded, and yeah, the person who created the issue hasn't responded to the latest comment. So yeah, I'll just keep it as it is. It looks like the rest of the issues are already assigned, have been triaged. So I think that should be it, unless if there's anything that anyone wants to discuss or bring up specifically. Okay, if not, I guess we can end early. Thanks all for joining.
Thank you.